We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is the first podcast of the new year, I believe. Hope everyone's doing okay. I took a couple days off. I've just been wore out just from work, I went in on my day off and probably shouldn't have done that. I felt good at the time, and then the next day I was like, man, I should have just took the day off. Got the stimulus checks coming in Monday, so that's cool. But yeah, that's about it. I ain't really got nothing else to share. Just been working my butt off. I hope everyone's doing all right. Curious to see what's going to happen January 6th. I'm not stressing about it, though. As weird as that sounds, I ain't stressing about it. So today's episode, though, we are going to be covering the first Anunnaki to land on Earth. It's taken from Zecharia Sitchin's Book of Enki. It's supposed to be translations of cuneiform tablets. I've put a disclaimer on previous episodes covering Sitchin's work. A lot of people say a lot of bad about it, and then a lot of people promote it, so it's kind of 50-50 with Sitchin. I just have to say, honestly, there's only I heard I think a couple years ago, there's literally at one time, there's 5 cuneiform tablet translators within the world at one time. It's kind of like the language is so old. I don't know if it just takes forever to learn or people just aren't interested in learning it. So you got a handful of people who are actually translating this stuff. So, not really a whole lot to choose from. And he is an ancient astronaut theorist. So obviously he puts that perspective on it. But, I'm an ancient astronaut theorist, and it is Conspiracy Corner Podcast, so we kind of go down the rabbit hole. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you the story. And by the way, if the speaking sounds weird, I can read, I promise you that, but where it is translated from cuneiform, it's almost like a poem. So now this is the account of the kingship of Alalu and of going to earth. In the land unity was lost. About the kingship many were aggrieved. In the palace princes were agitated. In the council counselors were distraught. From father to son, succession from on the throne continued. Even Lama, the 8th, had adopted a son. Adoption, a son was proclaimed. Who was Alalu? Was he the legal heir? Was he firstborn? But what right did he usurp? Was he not a king's slayer? Before the 7 who judge, Alalu was summoned, his fate to consider. So right now this is all taking place on Nibiru. aka Planet X. Before the seven who judge, Alalu spread his pleas. Though neither legal heir nor a son firstborn of royal seed, indeed he was. Of Anshargal am I descended, before the judges he claimed. By a concubine my ancestor was to him born. Alam was his name. But the Count of Shars, Alam, was the firstborn. The throne to him belonged. A Shar is like, I believe it's an orbit of Nibiru around Earth, is the theory that Sitchin had. That Planet X actually orbits around Earth and the Sun both. And it goes out, I can't remember the exact date because it's been like years since I've read this, but it goes out super far. Like our orbits are kind of like circular. This one's like very oval, like to the extreme. By convincing the queen his rights put aside, a law of the seed from naught she created, for her son the kingship obtained. Alam of kingship she deprived, to her son instead it was granted. By descent of Alam's generations am I continued. The seed of Anshargal is within me. The seven who judge to Alalu's words gave heed. To the council of counselors they passed the matter, truth or falsehood to ascertain. The royal annals from the house of records were brought forth. With much care they were read. On and onto the first royal couple were 3 sons, and no daughters to them were born. The firstborn was Anki, that's A-N-K-I, not Enki. He died on the throne. He had no offspring. The middle son, in his stead, the throne ascended. Anib was his name. And Shargo was his firstborn. The throne he ascended. After him on the throne, kingship by the firstborn did not continue. The law of succession by the law of the seed was supplanted. A concubine's son was the firstborn. By the law of the seed, kingship he was deprived. The kingship instead to Kishargal's son was granted. Her being a half-sister of the king was the reason. Of the concubine's son, the firstborn, the annals made no record. Of him I am descended. Alalu to the counselors cried out. By the law of succession to him kingship belonged. By the law of succession to kingship am I now entitled. With hesitation the counselors of Alalu an oath of truth demanded. I do have to say that the synchronicity and I didn't plan this actually. I forgot this part of the story. It's kind of good timing with the whole presidential stuff going on right now. Alalu swore the oath of life or death. As king, the council him considered. They summoned the elders. They summoned the princes. Before them the decision was pronounced. From among the princes, a young prince stepped forward about the kingship words he wished to say. Succession must be reconsidered to the assembly, he said. Though neither firstborn nor the queen a son of pure seed am I descended. The essence of An in me is preserved, by no concubine diluted. The essence that they speak of is DNA. So, the counselors heard the words with amazement. The young prince, to step closer, they summoned. They asked him for his name. It is Anu, after my forefather An am I named. They inquired about his generations. Of An's 3 sons he them reminded. Anki was the firstborn. Without son or daughter he died. Anib was the middle son. Instead of Anki, the throne he ascended. Anib, the daughter of his younger brother, took to be wife. From them onward the succession is in the annals recorded. Who was that your younger brother, a son of An and Antu, one of purest seed? The counselors, with wonderment, looked at each other. Enuru was his name. Anu to them announced, he was my great ancestor. His spouse, Ninuru, was a half-sister. Her son was firstborn. Inama was his name. His wife was his half-sister. By the laws of seeds and succession, a son she bore him. Of pure descent, the generations continued by law and by seed perfect. Anu, after our forefather, An, did my parents name me. From the throneship we were removed, from An's pure seed we were not removed. Let Anu be king, many counselors shouted. Let Alalu be removed. Others caution did counsel. Let strife be prevented, let unity prevail. They call in Alalu the discovered findings to be told. To the prince Anu, Alalu his arm embraced offer. To Anu he thrust said, though by different offsprings of one ancestor we are both descended. Let us live in peace together, Nibiru to abundance return. Let me keep the throne, let you keep the succession. To the council's words he directed, let Anu crown prince be, let him be my successor. Let his son, my daughter espouse, let succession be united. Anu bowed before the council. To assembly he thus declared, Alalu's cupbearer I shall be, his successor in waiting, a son of mine, a daughter of his, as bride shall choose. That was the council's decision. In the royal annals, it was inscribed. So pretty much they're going to keep it the way it is. Alalu's king. The other, his successor. But they're going to mix the bloodlines. So, let's see, where shall I be? That was the council's decision in the royal annals as it was inscribed. In this manner, Alalu on the throne remained seated. He summoned the sages, savants, and commanders he consulted. For deciding he gained much knowledge. Let celestial boats be constructed, he decided, to seek the gold and the hammered bracelet, he decided. So celestial boats would be spaceships. The hammered bracelet is the asteroid belt. Now that's all described in a tale called the Enuma Elish, which I plan on doing an episode on. So that'll be cool. By the hammered bracelets, the boats were By the hammered bracelets, the boats were crushed. None of them returned. Let with weapons of terror the bowels of Nibiru be cut open. Let volcanoes again erupt, he then commanded. With weapons of terror skyborne, chariots were armed. With terror missiles from the skies were volcanoes struck. So this sounds a lot like, honestly, like L. Ron Hubbard type stuff. The mountains swayed, the valleys shuddered, as great brilliances with thunder exploded. And the land was much rejoicing, of abundance there were expectations. In the palace, Anu was for Alalu the cupbearer. He would bow at Alalu's feet, set the drinking cup in Alalu's hand. Alalu was the king. Anu, as a servant by him, was treated. In the land rejoicing receded, rains were withheld, winds blew harder. The belching by volcanoes did not increase. The breach in the atmosphere did not heal. So pretty much their atmosphere was like fucked, pardon my French, but kind of like ours. And their idea was to take gold and shoot it up into the atmosphere. So they need to go to Earth to get gold. Which is funny because we are actually shooting aluminum in our atmosphere to fix, the state of our world. It's kind of one of those things like we can't use gold because all the gold's gone. And I guess the next best thing would be aluminum. It's kind of like, I wonder where they learned that from, In the heavens Nibiru, its circuits kept coursing. From circuit to circuit, heat and cold grew harder to suffer. The people of Nibiru ceased to revere their king. Instead of relief, misery he caused. Alalu on the throne remained seated. The strong and wise Anu, foremost of the princess, was standing before him. He would bow to Alalu's feet, set the drinking cup in Alalu's hand. For 9 counted periods, Alalu was king on Nibiru. In the 9th Shar, Anu gave battle to Alalu. To hand-to-hand combat with bodies naked, Alalu he challenged. Let the winner be king, Anu said. They grappled with each other in the public square. Doorposts trembled and walls shook, which makes sense because the Anunnaki were like giants, Alalu bent his knee to the ground. He fell on his chest. Alalu in combat was defeated. By acclaim, Anu was hailed as king. Anu to the palace was escorted. Alalu to the palace did not return. From the crowds he stealthily escaped. Of dying like Lama he was fearful. Unbeknownst to others, to the place of the celestial chariots he hurriedly went. Into a missile-throwing chariot Alalu climbed. Its hatch behind him he closed. The forepart chamber he entered. The commander's seat he occupied. That which shows the way he lit up. So basically like a map, like GPS. With bluish aura the chamber filling. The firestones he stirred up. Their hum like music was enthralling. The chariot's great cracker he enlivened. A reddish brilliance it was casting. Unbeknownst to others, in the celestial boat, Alalu from Nibiru escaped. To snow-hued earth Alalu set his course. By a secret from the beginning he chose his destination. So, I'm going to take a little break, but before I come back to this, now that he's setting flight to go to Earth, I would like to remind you all can find us on, if you're listening to audio only, you can find us on YouTube. The YouTube channel is Abe Williams. The reason why I offer that is because if you go to the YouTube channel, it's my main output of stuff because you can find ghost hunting videos of me and my wife. We do ghost hunting. You can find occult item videos. I collect occult items and I make them, most of them homemade. Book reviews, cooking videos, unboxing videos, just a little bit of everything, honestly. Even real quick little short videos here and there. But if you're watching from YouTube and you want to support the channel in any way, if you're watching from YouTube and you only watch or listen just for the podcast, if you check us out on Google Podcast, Breaker, Anchor, or Radio Public, we make like a penny for each listen. So, I mean, it ain't much, but it all adds up, But we'll get back to the story. Alright, so Alalu jumped in the spaceship and he's leaving Nibiru heading for Earth, escaping for his life. The snow-hued Earth, Alalu set his course, and this is the 2nd tablet of Book of Enki. By a secret from the beginning, he chose his destination. The regions forbidding Alalu made his way. No one has gone there before. No one at the hammered bracelet, a crossing had attempted. So basically flying through the asteroid belt. dodging asteroids and stuff is what he's going to attempt to do. No one had the guts to do it before. A second from the beginning, Alalu's course has determined. The fate of Nibiru in his hands it placed, by a scheme his kingship to make universal. On Nibiru exile was certain, their death itself he was chancing. In his scheme, risk was in the journey, eternal glory of success was the reward. Riding like an eagle, Alalu the heavens scanned. Below, Nibiru was a ball in a voidness hanging. Alluring was its figure, its radiance emblazoned the surrounding heavens. Its measure was enormous, its belchings fire blazed forth, its life-sustaining envelop. Its hue, a redness, was like a sea churning. In the midst the breach was distinct, like a darkened wound. He looked down again. The wide breach turned into a small tub. He looked again. Nibiru's great ball turned into a small fruit. He looked again. Nibiru's great... The next time he looked, in the wide dark sea, Nibiru disappeared. Remorse the heart of Alalu grasped. Fear held him in its hands. Decision to hesitation turned. To halt in his tracks Alalu considered. Then from audacity to decision he returned. 100 leagues, 1,000 leagues, the chariot was coursing. 10,000 leagues, the chariot was journeying. In the wide heavens, darkness was the darkest. In the faraway, distant stars, their eyes were blinking. More leagues Alalu traveled, then a sight of great joy met his gaze. In the expanse of the heavens, the celestials' emissary was him greeting, Saturn's moon. Eventually Pluto due to Nibiru's path. Little Gaga, which is Pluto, the one who shows the way, by its circuit Alalu was greeting, to him a welcome extending. With a leaning gait, before and after the celestial Antu it was destined to travel. To face forward, to face backward, with two facings was it endowed. Its appearance at first to greet Alalu as a good omen he at once considered. By the celestial gods he is welcomed. So was his understanding. In his chariot Alalu followed Gaga's path. To the second god of the heavens it was directing. Soon celestial Antu, which is Neptune. Its name by King Inshar was given, in the deep's darkness was looming. Blue as pure waters was her hue. Of the upper waters she was the commencement. Alalu, by the sight's beauty, was enchanted. To course at a distance he continued. In the far beyond, Antu's spouse began to shimmer. By size Antu's the equal. As his spouse's double, by a greenish-bluish, was on distinguish. A dazzling host encircled it on its side. With firm grounds they were provided. To the two celestials, Alalu bade a fond farewell, the path of Gaga still discerning. The way it was showing to its olden master, of whom it was the counselor. To Anshar, which is Saturn, the foremost prince of the heavens, the course was a-turning. By the speeding chariot Alalu then ensnaring pool of Anshar could tell. With bright rings of dazzling colors, the chariot it was enchanting. His glaze Alalu to one side quickly turned. That which shows the way with might he diverted. A sight most awesome then to him appeared. In the faraway heavens the family's bright star he discerned. A sight most frightening, the revelation followed. A giant monster, in its destiny moving, upon the sun a darkening cast. Kishar, its creator, swallowed. Kishar is Jupiter. Frightening was the occurrence, an evil omen, Alalu indeed thought. The giant Kishar, foremost of the firm planets, its size was overwhelming. Swirling storms obscured its face. Colored spots they moved about, a host beyond counting. Come quickly, some quickly, some slowly. The celestial god encircled. Troublesome was their ways, back and forth they were surging. Kishar itself a spell was casting, divine lightnings it was thrusting. As Alalu looked on, his course became upset. His direction was distracted. His doings became confused. Then the deepness, darkening began to depart. Kishnar on his destiny continued in circuit. Slowly moving, its veil from the shining sun it lifted. The one from the beginning came fully into view. Joy in Alalu's heart was not long lasting. Beyond the fifth planet, the utmost danger was lurking. So indeed, he knew. The hammered bracelet ahead was raining. To demolish it was awaiting. Of rocks and boulders was it together hammered, like orphans, with no mother they banded together. Surging back and forth, a bygone destiny they followed. Their doings were loathsome, troubling were their ways. Nibiru's probing chariots, like preying lions, they devoured. The precious gold, needed for surviving, they refused to dislodge. The chariot of Alalu, toward the hammered bracelet, was headlong moving. The ferocious boulders, in close combat, to boldly face. Alalu, the firestones, in his chariot, more strongly stirred up. That which shows the way, with steady hands he directed. The ominous boulders against the chariot charged forward like an enemy in battle attacking. Toward them, Alalu, a death-dealing missile from the chariot let loose, then another and another against the enemy. The terror weapons he thrust. As frightened warriors, the boulders turned back. So he's just blasting his way through with lasers. Or missiles, A path for Alalu granting. Like by a spell, the hammered bracelet, a doorway to the king, it opened. I don't know why, it reminds me of Galaga. Like blasting through, or like asteroids, playing asteroids. I love old school games, so I was a 90s kid. My dad had an Atari, so I got to grow up on like Atari and Nintendo and stuff, and I don't know why, it just reminds me of that. In the dark deepness, Alalu, the heavens could clearly see. By the bracelet's ferocity, he was not defeated. His mission was not ended. In the distance, the sun's fiery ball, its brilliance was sending forth. Welcoming rays towards Alalu it was emitting. Before it, a red-brown planet on its circuit was coursing. The sixth in the count of the celestial gods it was. Alalu could but glimpse it. On its destined course from Alalu's path, it was quickly moving. Then snow-hued earth appeared, the seventh in the celestial count. Toward the planet Alalu set his course, to a destination most inviting. Smaller than Nibiru was its alluring ball. Weaker than Nibiru's was its attracting net. Meaning, gravity, like getting pulled into Earth's gravity, the atmosphere. Its atmosphere thinner than Nibiru's was. Clouds were within it swirling. Below the Earth, to three regions was divided. Snow white at the top, and on the bottom, blue and brown in between. Talking about the poles, North and South poles. Deftly, Alalu spread the chariot's arresting wings around the Earth's ball to circle. So now he's just kind of diving in and starting to circle the orbit. basically pulling out, the wings of the ship so it can fly like a jet rather than a spaceship now. I guess the wings come out, extend. Once again, reminds me of a video game, kind of like Star Fox, how you can change your wings like to flat or close up whenever you're in space. Let's see. The beam that penetrates downward he directed, Earth's innards to detect. I have attained it. Ecstatically he shouted. Gold, much gold, the beam has indicated. So some sort of like radar or something like, I wouldn't know what that is, but it can detect gold, like X-ray or something. It was beneath the dark-hued region. In the waters it was too. With pounding heart, Alalu, a decision was contemplating. Shall he on the dry land his chariot bring down, perchance to crash and die? Shall he to the waters his course direct, to perchance into oblivion sink? Which way shall he survive? Will he the treasured gold discover? In the eagle's seat Alalu was not stirring. To fate's hand the chariot he entrusted. Fully caught in earth's attracting net, the chariot was moving faster. Its spread wings became aglow. Earth's atmosphere like an oven was. Then the chariot shook, emitting a mortifying thunder. With an abruptness the chariot crashed, with a suddenness altogether stopping. Senseless from the shaking, stunned by the crash, Alalu was without moving. So he landed all right. He crash landed. Then his eyes opened and knew he was among the living. At the planet of gold he victoriously arrived. So, that's the first Anunnaki to land, be it crash landing, on Earth. Now, this is up to you, the listener. If you guys want me to do a part 2 of this, because the story goes on. This episode was just kind of focusing on that particular part of the story. I can make a part 2 of this. Just let me know in the comments if that's what you guys want to hear, and I have no problem making a part 2. We will continue the story if you guys want. But I will let you all go. Thank you all for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, comments. Y'all have a good day.
We are as a people inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.